Nearly 90% of melanoma are thought to be caused by overexposure to the sun or light. Again, as we saw in the beginning, it only takes one blistering sunburn to double your chances of getting melanoma. But you can prevent it. You can prevent it by being aware, wearing protective clothing. Again, this is one cancer that you can actively advocate against. Y'all been there? Yeah, this is another story for sun protective clothing. I mean, you know. Oops, I missed. What other forms of sun protection are the most effective? You know, a lot of times we try to ask people to reorganize their work or laying out at the beach. You know, there's peak times, providing natural light, artificial shade, appropriate clothing, and applying sunscreen. Now here's the SPF chart, and I know we all see this a lot, but it's the sun protection factor. It's rating for sunscreen, and you see it on cosmetics. And most of it will protect you against the UVB, but the measure of a sunscreen's ability is by the level. So if it takes you 20 minutes for your skin to turn red, an SPF 15 should work for about 5 hours. But you know, the key again to because if you're sweating or something like that, it's just to apply and keep reapplying, because that isn't always the case. What can we do in the field? As we said, reorganizing your work. It's the peak time is between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. every day. I mean, I know that is the key time for everybody to work, and the chances of having your guys work at night doing what they're doing is not going to happen. Protective clothing. If your guys have to wear, do you guys have to wear hard hats very much? So with the hard hats, there are langoliers and things, protective things that you can put over and around, because your most sensitive areas are going to be the back of your neck and your ears, and also the wraparound sunglasses. And if you are in a position where you have to wear eye protection, there are goggles out there that are coated and do have SPF factors, so that's probably a good way to go. It's definitely important to include this in your training when you're talking to your folks that are going to be working outside. And the number one important thing is education on early detection and protection, and getting them the right clothing that they need to do their job outside. I know a lot of the safety companies that provide clothes now are more and more starting to offer clothes with SPF. The interesting thing about the clothes with the SPF, the darker the color, the darker the weave, the better the protection. If it's white or if the fabric's a little more opaque, it doesn't give you it doesn't protect as well as something that's a little darker or tighter knit fabric. If they're wearing a hat, it needs to be at least, they say 8 inches, because then that protects your eyes and your ears. But, and also I think that there's a couple groups that actually have some of these awareness posters that you could put up in your trailer, so when your guys are coming in and, that you're constantly, again, hitting them with awareness, because you really don't want to get that call from your employee's lawyer saying that you're in a case because they've gotten skin cancer from work on the job. Early detection is key. I know, like a lot of your job sites, they're working around hazards all day long. But just like any normal construction hazard, the sun is something that you need to protect your workers against. And I hope this gives you a little, time for thought and pause. So the next time you're kind of thinking you don't want to put your suntan lotion on because it's going to burn your eyes, or it's sticky, or it's going to bother you, that you think of me and those people in the video that have done their time. And melanoma is definitely not something that you want to wrestle with. Does anybody have any questions? Actually, it's called Zelbrov or Tafinlar. It's changed its name and Mechanist, and it is a product of GSK, GlaxoSmithKline. Genentech has its own version. I've got to tell you, it's kind of like the Coke and Pepsi thing. But I started on the Zelbrov, which was done by Genentech, and I had the horrible side effects. And then I switched over to Tafinlar, which is GSK's drug, and they all went away like magic. So one's kind of a newer formula. But there's actually inhibitors. There's immunotherapy, and those are kind of the two directions. There's also anti-PD-1. So there's what all these things do is with melanoma, it has a tendency when you're treating it to shut down and then mutate into a totally different object. There's literally hundreds of mutations that melanoma can morph to. It's kind of like a transformer. But mine were special ed, so I was super lucky that one hit, it was out. But right now, they actually, there's a bunch of combinations of therapies, and if you're at one of the bigger melanoma centers like Moffitt, MD Anderson, Sloan Kettering, UCLA, Hutch, Mayo, they're all going to hit you with this type of treatment. The one thing that does not work well is standard chemo and radiation. It makes it angry, really angry. And during our trials, when they would compare people on our treatment versus the other standard of treatment of care or chemos, they would pass away pretty rapidly. Well, melanoma in general, squamous cell usually can be removed and it's okay, unless it's a carcinoma, which then has another, and if it's gone into different organs. And then there's some other lines of defense. But I can talk to you later, and I have my card. Is there anything else? Yep.
Can we hold on a sec? We had two microphones. Not everybody can hear the question. You got one back there?
Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, any UV exposure, like from a welding operation, does the same thing?
Well, it depends. It's just kind of like the same basis with the whole tanning bed. As long as it, if it has that one component, it can be hazardous. So you really need to protect yourself.
Cheryl, Jimmy Carter, President Carter went through some treatment. What cured him of his melanoma? President Carter.
Yes, President Carter was diagnosed. He had the BRAF. He was BRAF positive, so that's and they treated him with anti-PD-1, which was a new, I guess, clinical trial that was, or it's actually now moving more towards a standard treatment of care, and he was at MD Anderson, I believe. But yeah, and it's really pretty amazing because a lot of these drugs now, the side effects have gotten a lot better than when I was in there, because originally they wouldn't put anybody into a trial that was of a certain age or fit or whatever. And with Jimmy Carter, that's a great, it's just a great study to see what can happen with your immune system, and that these drugs really do work no matter what your age. Anything else?
Yeah. When you said you were the outlier in your clinical trial, I didn't catch if you expanded on whether the rest of the people who didn't succeed to your degree quit taking the drug or dropped off over time? Or?
There was a lot of things. A lot of people dropped off and they stopped taking the drug. But in all honesty, everybody that I started with has passed away. My last friend just died this summer. And again, they went through a series of trying other treatments, and their melanoma was just way more resilient than mine.
Cheryl, great job. Blessings to you and your husband too, what all you've gone through. So I actually pulled some numbers real quick while you were doing your presentation, and we have actually 6 work comp claims at CNA in 2016, skin cancer.
Wow.
4 of them are roofers, 2 of them are mechanical.
Wow.
One of them is from welding, UV radiation, and one is from coal tar for the roofers. So it is starting to hit the I guess the employment books in the different states now.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see that those numbers continue to rise. I mean, as we are, and you know, just the numbers that came out this morning, you know, we're up. Originally, when I put the slides together 2 days ago, it was 144,000 melanoma cases, and which is, you know, less than all skin cancer, but the most severe. And now it's like 160. So. We are definitely seeing, and a lot of it, I think, comes from what's happening right now on the college campuses. Being tan's cool again, you know. So.
Hi, just want to know what that link was to that video at the beginning.
Yeah, well, I'll send it over. Pete has it. We'll send it out to everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll make all of this stuff available to you.
Yeah. And please pass it on, because that was Meredith's goal. She put a lot into this. She'd be proud. Anything else? Are you good? Thank you.